rather have you set it up so you have it, because once you get students in there, you can start to have issues, and we'd rather have it set up now than have to troubleshoot later. So the slide deck is in the chat, and then I have that bit.ly. We can also email it out, or it's on our integrated site if you did not have a chance to get it. Okay, so we're going to start with section linking. This is going to take about 15 to 20 minutes. We need to do section linking first before we connect your gradebook. And this is for those classes where you teach the same section multiple times a day. So this could be 6th grade math, you teach it 4 periods. Maybe it's gym in elementary, you're going to teach it to 3 different 1st grade classes, 3 different 2nd grade classes. So we're going to be looking at your course ID. Your course ID will tell you how many pages you will have. Think about how many preps you have. That's how many pages you're going to have. It's the same as our old system. Unfortunately, unlike our old system, we can't link everything in one page. If you do that, you lose that connection to have your students automatically enrolled and unenrolled when they change courses or schools. So this is why we have to use those rostered courses that Schoology created for us. We do have a video in the slide deck. This is out on our integrated site as well. And then I know some of you don't like to watch the video. You don't like to look at the slide deck. So we do have typed directions for you to grab here as well.
Rachel, there's some requests that you slow your roll a little bit.
I haven't done anything, anyone. Hold on. All we're doing is talking about what we're doing. We're not even in Schoology yet, so don't worry. This session is going to be, I show you a little bit, and then I'm going to give you time to start working on your pages, because that's the best way to do it. Don't worry. So I'm just going to talk about what it looks like to be a linked section and a non-linked section. So these are examples of courses you can link. And when I say link, roll up your sections, I'm talking about, look at this biology teacher at Northrop. She teaches biology 1, 6 periods a day. So right now in Schoology, she's going to see 6 individual courses, even though it's all the same content. So what she is able to do, she's able to take all 6 sections and roll them up. We are having audio issues. Okay, hold on. Some schools can't hear, so hold on. Sound, let me know when you're ready. All right, our site is ready to go. Good to hear. Okay, so this biology teacher, she's able to take those 6 courses and roll them up into one Schoology page, and then click between the different rosters when assigning work and grading. So that's what we're doing today. And here is an elementary example. This is a phys ed teacher at Indian Village. This teacher has 3 1st grade classes, so they can roll it into one to flip between the different sections. Now, so this phys ed teacher, they obviously are going to have a K through 6 page, so they'll have 6 pages versus 18. So that's the nice thing about rolling it up. They need to make sure they're signed in with their FWCS credentials to get into Zoom. That is probably why they're having issues getting in. Sorry, everyone, I'm working on the building monitor here. Yes, you have to sign in with your Google, and many teachers have been out for a few months, so your system is going to have to be reconnected. Is this better, Jennifer? Okay, so these are sections that we can put together. So I'm going to show you a section that we cannot put together. So this is an example of a section we cannot put together. So it looks like it's the same course over and over. They're just changing grades. But really, if you look, their numbers are different in their course IDs. So this is where they cannot link their pages, which is why you don't see the sections all listed together. So this teacher would literally have 6 pages to break apart all of these students. So some of you in your secondary classes have a blend of kids, like you might have some 9-10 kids together. You might see some 6 through 8 kids together. Sometimes the state requires each group of grades of students have their own course IDs. So even though you're teaching one class, but because you have 3 grades in there, you would have 3 pages just for that one period. So that is one downfall of Schoology. In those instances, please reach out to your district technology coordinator and they will give you options for your pages. Courses that might be like that are your art classes. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to jump out of the slide deck and go to Schoology. So if you are the person that is not sharing, so you're sitting there, go ahead and go to your Schoology course. We're going to start looking at your courses. So I'm on my main dashboard. I'll go ahead and give you a second to get on there. Remember, it's FWCS.schoology.com. For secondary special ed teachers, no, this is not for them. Secondary special ed teachers are co-teachers and need to be added. Some elementaries, they will have course IDs. Sorry, I have Rick asking me questions. He's across the room. If you cannot get to Schoology through fwcs.schoology.com, we have added it to Clever. It is a white icon on the white background, so be careful when looking for it. So inside your course, we're going to come up to the black bar. We're going to select courses. This is going to pop down and show you the first 12 courses you have selected to show. But we're going to come over here to the top right and choose My Courses. So I went to Courses and then My Courses. At this point, you should see a list view of your courses. If you do not see courses, this tends to be you are a co-teacher and you need to be added to that page. Okay, did everybody get here okay? I'm trying to go at a pace so you can all get there. So I've enrolled in some different courses. So if you look, here's that biology teacher I had showed you. It's no longer in that list format. They're all separated by commas. This teacher has linked her sections already. So this is our goal at the end of our session, is to do this. But if I look here at this Anthus teacher for his early childhood courses, he has 2 courses that have 2 separate course IDs, but he teaches 2 sections of that course. So right now this teacher is showing that he has 2 Schoology pages, but they're currently in 4. So he can roll them up into 1 each. So he would only have 2. So here's an ELL teacher. Here's one where she linked, and then here's one where she still needs to link. And then here are some where you see multiple periods of the same thing. So this teacher here, she teaches at 4 periods. She's able to go from 4 pages down to 1. And then this teacher, she has 6 pages. She's able to go from 6 down to 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to select one of our sections that we can link. Some of you might have multiple, so you're going to have to do it multiple times. So this teacher, this is all she has on her schedule, so she only has to link these pages. I will tell you that when courses are built, admin tend to build a Sped section and a Gen Ed section, and then they move those Sped children into the Gen Ed section. So this teacher here, she still sees her Sped sections from when her admin built her page. So in this case, we are asking that you reach out to your coordinator so we can make sure your rosters are okay before we fix this issue. This one here, her Sped sections have disappeared. I've been getting some questions about when I link it, will it all be one big roster or separate sections? So when we link this into one giant page, so we go from this to this, you are able in the gradebook and member section and assigning content, able to choose which period you see and which period you assign content to. So I know some of you want to know that now, so I thought I would answer that. And once we link it all, I will show you that. And then there's also another point. I will be in a member section of a course, and I will show you how to add that co-teacher, because some of you have co-teachers or Sped teachers you need to add to your pages. Okay, so let's find a course you're ready to link. So this teacher is ready to link her section. Notice on the right, you're going to see for these 4 sections, I have a gear with a drop down. It doesn't matter which one you select. So just hit one of the gears with the drop down on one of your sections for your course. Then you will see link existing section. So all I did was choose one of my sections, hit the gear, and choose link existing section. Now it's a 3-step process. Correct, Amanda. If you have 2 sections of the same period, I would wait. Double check your rosters. If you look at the slide deck, we kind of have some guidelines on that. We need to work with your admin to make sure everything is right before we change that. If you don't have any courses showing, you might be a co-teacher in a course, or your school has not turned on your courses, so you might check with your admin. They have scheduled you in a course. Okay, so step 1 to link your sections. Check every section that is available. So this teacher had 4 sections and we're linking all 4. So here's that first one that I hit the gear on, and then here's the 3 others. So this one was automatically checked because I chose it with the gear, and then I'm telling Schoology to connect these other 3. Now, those of you with those multiple sections, if you try this, you might have some of these grayed out. And that's because you have students duplicated, because those Sped students are technically in 2 rosters in your Schoology. This is why we have to work with you to get it cleaned up. Okay, so step 1, link all your sections. When you're ready, hit next. This part is asking you to download your grades. So if you had been 3 weeks into the school year and decided to do this and have grades, and you decided to do this, it would delete all of your grades. So this is having you download them to then have them to reuse them. So we'll just choose standard CSV. It's going to give you a blank file. That's okay. We don't need it. We haven't been doing any grading in our courses. So just choose standard CSV, download and next. You will see a file download. Some of you, it might automatically open. It's okay. We don't need it. You can exit. Yes, I can repeat to how I got here. So if you look behind my screen, I have all my 4 sections that I want to roll up into one page. I chose one of my sections, the gear, and then I hit link existing section. And then I check marked all my sections that were available. The first section I chose was automatically chosen, and I'm telling it to choose the other 3. I went to courses at the black bar, And then I got a pop down, and then from the right, I chose my courses. So I'll hit next, standard CSV again, download and next. So this is step 2. There's that file. I don't need it, so I'm just going to exit because it's empty. I have no grades. And this is just confirming that I want to link my 4 sections to do grades, materials, and course profiles. So just hit link sections. And so notice there's 4. Now watch how it changes. There you go. Now it is one big hyperlink section. So she went from something like this with all these pages to now she has just one page. So I know some of you might have multiple pages. Some of you might have just been watching instead of doing it. So I'll go ahead and give you a couple minutes to do this or ask any questions for troubleshooting errors. A section can be unlinked. So this is that section I just linked. I can still hit this gear. And now I have the option to unlink it. And it's a 3-step process again to unlink it. So it's very easy to link and unlink them. Susan, to answer your question, if you're able to link your sections, you are still able to say, I want this class to see this folder. I want this class to see this assignment. You can start to make those differences there. If you're able to link your sections, it would make it so you have less pages to maintain, which is why we're going over this section linking. So like here's a teacher, she has 2 sections for one class. This is her Sped section from when her admin built her class, and this is her Gen Ed. Her admin on SIS should have put these students in here, but we need to confirm her roster before we start to clean up these sections because we don't want to lose students in the carryover. Yes, we will be getting to Gradebook here first. We just need to link our sections before we connect our Gradebook. Correct. If you have different course ID numbers, they cannot be linked, which is why with this ELL teacher, she has different course numbers, so she's not able to link all of her ELL students together. About another 30 seconds, and I'll go ahead and move on to the next step and show you some stuff about how this looks like in the course. I would do the standard CSV. It's just going to be a blank file because you haven't done any grading. Then you can just ignore it. So here is that course I just linked. So it is one big hyperlink section. I am going to click into this course. Now, one thing I want to say about this section linking, this teacher, she teaches this course all year. So she only has to do what we just did once a year. But I know for high school, you are semester long courses. So what we just did here, you will have to do again in semester 2. If you are a quarterly teacher, you will have to do this every quarter with your courses. So here is that course. It's a blank template right now. So if this teacher would go to her members section, everyone will have a member section. Students can see members as well. Notice up here, it tells me members in period 1, but it's hyperlinked. So if I select it, I can now toggle between my different rosters of students. So if I wanted to sort my period 4 students into different groups for small groups, I can still over here just sort this period into the different groups for learning. And all I did was toggle. And it's going to be the same thing in the gradebook for that teacher. When they come to their gradebook, here's that drop down, and they can just change between the sections to do their grading.
It is just going to be all different.
Okay. So I think we're ready. Some of the questions have started to slow down on section linking. So now we are ready to do gradebook. So in order to do gradebook, I wanted to kind of draw your attention back to Power Teacher Pro. So in Power Teacher Pro, oh no, I lost my page. So in Power Teacher Pro, you created grading categories, or actually the district created them for you. Remember, for high school, you had summative and formative. In middle school, you had 4 categories. You had tests, quizzes, projects, and classwork, if I remember correctly. So some of you either deleted those categories or you created your own. So give me a second. I'm trying to pull up an example here. Here we go. So here's the categories in this teacher's gradebook. This teacher in Power Teacher Pro, she kept the classwork, project, quiz, test, and then she added completion and homework. This ability is for middle school. High school, you are still formative and summative, so you can't add or delete these categories. But in Schoology, when we create content, you have to create categories. When you've been practicing, it probably forced you to choose that category. Well, we're going to set up our categories. So I want middle school to think about your Power Teacher Pro. Did you keep the 4 categories? Did you delete any? Or did you add any? So you might want to take a moment, go check out your Power Teacher Pro to see what you have. Now, high school, you can get creative. You can just keep it summative, formative, or you can get creative and go, oh, well, I want classwork to connect to formative, but then I also want labs to connect to formative. So you can get creative with your categories to then connect them to here. So in middle school, we're going to take your 4 categories by standard and connect 4 categories from Schoology so the systems can talk. So this teacher, she created 6 categories. So in Schoology, she's going to have to create 6 categories to connect with Power Teacher Pro. High school, you need a minimum of 2 categories to talk to Power Teacher Pro. So take a second, check out your Power Teacher Pro to see your categories. So I went to the gradebook, I selected grading, and I was able to select categories. So high school, yours is pretty standard, formative and summative. So once you determine that, I'm going to have you come back to Schoology. So those of you that are ready in Schoology, I want you to hit grade setup. This is where we're going to go. Okay, so check out your Power Teacher Pro categories. And then in your Schoology course, so this is that course, I just took 4 sections, rolled it up into 1 page. I'm going to come to my grade setup. Okay, so in Power Teacher Pro, I need you to look and see what categories you have. High school should just be formative and summative. Middle school, by standard, you should see classwork, project, quiz, test. Some teachers have adjusted their Power Teacher Pro categories, like this teacher. She has added completion and homework to her grading categories. I've worked with teachers where they just kept classwork and tests. They deleted everything else. So I need you to determine in your Power Teacher Pro what grading categories you have, because you need to know these for your grade setup in Schoology. So I know for my 6th grade math page, I'm going to need to create 6 categories to connect to these 6 categories. So in my grade setup in Schoology, this first section is categories. So you need to create your grading categories. So when you create discussions, assignments, tests, quizzes, it's going to ask you to identify a grading category. And the reason for that is then it knows how to assign it in your Power Teacher Pro gradebook. So high school, you might just keep summative formative. But as I said, you might want to add labs. Maybe you do want classwork. Maybe you want projects, and then you can link them to your different sections. Middle school, you need at least the minimum 4, unless you deleted the minimum 4 and created your own. So I'm going to mimic this teacher and create her 6 categories. So all I have to do is hit add.
Okay, I can pull it up here. What isn't it making?
So I'm going to name my first category. She had classwork. So I'm just going to type in classwork. I need to keep it at total points. If you remember, this is a point-based system. So we need to keep it at point-based in here. And then I'm just going to select create. And there's my first category. So I'm going to continue creating the other 5 categories. You create your categories in this time as well. And if you didn't know where I went because you were looking at Power Teacher Pro categories, I'm back in my Schoology course and I went to grade setup. Correct. Correct. High school's weighting categories are already set. Correct. I'm actually going to pull up a high school course where a teacher has set hers up to show you how she did her categories. So remember in high school, I told you have formative and summative. Well, this teacher created labs, tests, homework, classwork, projects, quizzes. So then she sorted all of these into 2 categories. She either sent them to formative or she sent them to summative. So right now we're just creating what categories you need. Yes, you can add categories to Power Teacher Pro, which is why I had you look here, because some of you are going to be different, such as this teacher where she added her own categories to Power Teacher Pro. But then I worked with the music teacher earlier this week, and he deleted 2 of these 4 categories that the district created. I cannot show how to add a category. I can only look at a teacher's page. I cannot act like a teacher. So we're just adding these categories right now. I'll give you about another minute to add your categories. Now remember, this is just one Schoology course. So if you're a teacher who has 3 Schoology pages you're still having to maintain, you will have to go into those other courses and do the same thing as well and create those grading categories. So if you're a teacher that has a math page, but then you also teach social studies, you'll have a social studies page. You have to create these grading categories in your math page and your social studies page. Just leave the drop lowest to what it was set to. Just leave it there. If you know how to use it, use it. If not, leave it at the standard that it was set to. You can add math labs as a category if you would like. You can make your own category, and I'm going to show you how you can link multiple Schoology categories to one Power Teacher Pro category, which is what that high school teacher did. She linked 3 Schoology categories to one Power Teacher Pro category.
Rachel, I've seen a request that you repeat or slow down a little bit, just a little bit.
Well, right now it's work time. They should be creating their categories. That's all I'm waiting on right now. I cannot show how to create categories in Power Teacher Pro. I do not have that power. Well, if they're in Power Teacher Pro and they get to here, they should have the option in here where I'm at to create their categories or to delete their categories. I believe that's what this is. I just cannot mimic that. I have view only access. Yes, to modify these here, you have to do it in here. To do what Schoology has, you have to do it in Schoology. Thank you, Jesse. I cannot do that. I do not have that power, so I appreciate you putting that in there. No, middle school does not need to wait. You can keep everything at the standard that is showing here and then do all of your adjustments in Power Teacher Pro. If you know how to use the weighting and you would like to wait, you may, but high school, it's that 80-20 standard. Give you about another minute to try to create your categories in one of your courses. So the reason I have so many categories here is because that's the minimum I needed based on my categories in Power Teacher Pro. Okay. High school, you can be super simple and just do formative and summative if that's what you would like. That's a great question, Julie. Power Teacher Pro does not talk to Schoology. The only way it talks is through these categories. Beyond that, any information from Power Teacher Pro does not come to Schoology. Only Schoology can talk to Power Teacher Pro. It's kind of like a one-way road. And we'll kind of get down to that because obviously this year, we're going to have our students in our room. We are not expecting you to have probably 98% of your assignments on here. We're going to be doing a lot of hands-on with our kids. We're going to be doing more worksheets with our students. So that's when you'd probably use Power Teacher Pro to do your grading versus Schoology. Connecting this is so when you do some grading in Schoology, you can just transfer it over to Power Teacher Pro. Thank you, Eric. Okay, so we're going to stay in the grade setup for 2 more parts, but we're just going to scroll down a little bit in this page. So if you scroll down, I want you to see this final grade settings and then gradebook scale. Most of you, it's probably set to numeric, but as the superintendent said, we have adopted a new grade scale. So I know many of you are excited, new grade scale. So there's the FWCS grade scale and FWCS grade scale high school. So high school, obviously you're going to check the high school one. Middle school, you choose the one that's not labeled high school. Now in middle school, some of you teach high school credit classes. If you're a high school credit middle school teacher, your course that is the high school credit, like Spanish high school credit, you need to have your grade scale set to high school. If you are just a standard middle school teacher, you need to choose this grade scale. So this is a standard 6th grade math class, so I'm just going to choose FWCS grade scale. High school should choose here, and any middle school class that's high school credit needs to choose this. So once again, I'm doing this in my math class, but if I also have a social studies course, I need to, in the grade setup, choose the grade scale as well there. That's a great question, Jesse. I think that needs to be a Joanne question. So I will let, I think Eric is near Joanne. I will let him try to communicate with her on Algebra 1 for middle school. Is that high school credit or middle school for grade scale wise? Okay, so in grade setup, you've done your categories. You've selected your grade scale. At the very bottom of this grade setup, you should see visibility settings. Power Teacher Pro is automatically set on our end. And high school, all those new things with NS and 59%, that is already calculated into Power Teacher Pro for you. So in visibility settings, I want you to check those first 2 boxes to hide their overall grade and hide the grading periods in their grade reports. The reason we're doing this is, as I said, this year, obviously we're not going to be 100% on the LMS doing our assignments. You're going to be having some face-to-face interaction and doing assignments there. So that means not all of their assignments are going to be input into Schoology, because we are still using Power Teacher Pro as our main gradebook. So that means we want the students to find their attendance and to find their overall grade in Power Teacher Pro. So this is why we are checking these 2. So they don't think, oh, this is my final grade. It's absolutely not. Their final grade is always going to be in Power Teacher Pro. Shannon, they should be. But I would definitely double check that when you're doing your grading. But they should be set to that. It's just here in Schoology, it doesn't have that communication between the 2 systems. So if you are ready, you should have all of your categories. You should have selected your grade scale and then check these 2 boxes. If you have done all of that in your course, make sure you hit Save Changes. This is going to be a big factor. Make sure you hit that Save Changes so it keeps everything we just did. High school is automatically calculated to that 80-20. Yes, Michelle, you would have to add it in both. So if you add the categories in Power Teacher Pro, everything we're doing here, you'll have to adjust. So remember, this was just my math page. So if I have other sections of courses I teach, I have to do the same process there. And remember, if you are a semester-long course, which in high school you are, you're going to have to do everything we did today each semester. If you're a quarterly course, you're going to have to do this every quarter. Okay, so when we're ready, down here at the bottom on our left for navigation, we're going to hit Power School. You cannot copy it quarter to quarter. You have to manually do the adding. Everything we did here, all these steps, you will have to do again. So when you're ready, hit Power School. If this is your first time, make sure you hit Approve. So it's right here, Power School. So you'll get a prompt to approve, and then it will probably prompt you to land on configuration looking like this. I'm going to go ahead and switch my high school course so high school can see what it looks like. If you get an error, it could be one of two things. The first one is the system just got bombarded, so refresh and try it again. The second one is if you are in a sandbox, you are not in a district course, it will not work. That is the difference. Okay, so here's my high school course. And then here's my middle school. So notice the category difference. So here's that teacher. Remember, here's her Power Teacher Pro. She has those 6 categories. Here's those 6 categories. This is why back in grade setup, I created those categories because I referenced my Power Teacher Pro. And then here's that high school, formative, summative. But this teacher in her grade setup, if you remember, created those 6 categories. Well, she chunked them into groups of 3 and tied them only to formative and summative. It's all right, Kim. We have it all recorded. We have a slide deck. You're good. So what we're going to do at this point is connect them. So there's a drop down. So I need to do classwork to classwork. Now, some teachers, you might have done multiple categories like this teacher. It only has the one. So what she had to do was hit add, and then she was able to add multiple categories to one Power Teacher Pro category. And then if she has too many, you get this X, you can delete. Now, these categories on the left can only be used once. So I cannot use classwork again when I choose from these drop downs. So all I'm doing is matching my categories, which if you're going to have multiple tied to one, just make sure you hit the add. So I'll give you about a minute or two to go ahead and try to connect those categories. Here it is again, high school, if you need to see how someone got creative and created different categories. Another thing I'm going to have you do is check mark that box at the top that says automatically shorten assignment titles. The purpose of that is Power Teacher Pro and its assignment titles only allows 50 characters. So if your Schoology assignment title is more than 50 characters and you try to sync to Power Teacher Pro, your assignment will get an error and not sync. So that's why we're going to check mark that. We're going to connect from Schoology categories to our Power Teacher Pro categories. And when you're ready, you're going to hit Save Changes. And then I'm going to get that confirmation. So here's the part why we linked our sections first. Those of you who linked multiple period sections together into one Schoology course, did you notice up here in the top left that it says period 1 and it's a hyperlink? If I select that, I need to click on my other periods and repeat this process here. So I only had to set up one gradebook setup, but when I connect to Power Teacher Pro, each section, you have to tell the categories how to connect. So that's just up here if you're a class that linked your sections. This is why we linked first. If you are not seeing that Save Changes button, sometimes it's because we have this double scroll bar. Hold on, I'm trying to show you. Okay, So sometimes when you're in here creating, you'll have a scroll bar here. Make sure you use that scroll bar to see that save changes. Correct. We are still using Power Teacher Pro to do our attendance. So their attendance in Power Teacher Pro will not show up in this attendance tab. Yeah. Okay, so right now, all you're doing is linking your categories, shortening your assignments. And if you're one of my teachers who just linked a whole bunch of sections, make sure you're choosing the different sections and syncing all of your categories. And don't forget, if you have 2 pages, so you have a math page and a social studies page, what we're doing here, you're going to have to do in the other one. In that slide deck we shared on slide 8, once again, we have typed directions if you're someone who wants to read the directions and have a checklist. So we have provided typed directions as well as a video. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to work through this, and then I have a few more things to share about what we just did and how it affects your Schoology. Julie, you're on it today. Julie is asking a question that I actually need to cover in the next section.
Are you taking questions?
Mhm.
Okay, my question is, in my Power School, I have a category that I do not want in Schoology. So when I went in and put in my new categories in Schoology and went to link it with Power School, it showed one category that I no longer want. How do I need to go to Power School and delete that first?
Yes, ma'am. I would delete it here. One thing I'm going to tell you is the 2 systems have a lag, a time delay in communicating with each other. So it could
Okay.
take a few hours for it to show.
Oh, okay, because I could only link, I put in classwork, project, quiz, and test, but I couldn't link the classwork, only project, quiz, and test. So you're saying wait for a bit and see if it kind of materializes before I do anything?
Yes, and it's going to be
Okay.
the same thing when you grade. So I
Okay.
know sometimes when we grade with those students, so right there, we're like, I just put in your grade. It should now be in Gradebook. There's a 4-hour lag is what they're telling us. Give it up to 4 hours for those
So-
grades to transfer.
Okay, so if I go to Power School, because we'll still have Power School, I take it that's our actual grade book, is that
Yes,
correct?
this is your grade
So-
book right here.
So if I go to Power School and put the grades in, will the grades show up quicker?
I got to talk about that. That's a big change this year. That's actually my next point, and we're going to go ahead and shift into it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so there's some different criteria for syncing. So now that we have connected, we went through each section and we connected all of these categories from Schoology to Power School, shortened that assignment. I want you to notice there's a tab called Sync Grades. So this tab in Power School, this is going to show you any assignment you have said, I want to go from Schoology to Power Teacher Pro. And it will tell you if it went, when it went, and whether it was successful or not. So when you create a discussion, an assignment, a test, quiz, something that you want to go from Schoology to Power Teacher Pro, you're going to see that sync with SIS, that same option we had in Power School Learning. So when you tell that to go in Power Teacher Pro, it's going to create that grading table. It's going to create that assignment name. It's going to create its point value and assign it to the rosters you told it to go to, just like it did in Power School Learning. The only difference is when you start grading that assignment in Schoology, those grades do not automatically go to Power Teacher Pro. You have two ways to tell them to go to Power Teacher Pro. Way number one is here in Power School. So if I want to check the status of my assignments, I can see, oh, I just started grading and I haven't synced for 2 weeks. I can hit the sync changes and any grade I have input will now go over to Power Teacher Pro. So this is just one way to check those assignments. So let me show you what I'm talking about when I say sync to SIS. So here is my course, and I'm going to add materials. So an assignment, an assessment, a discussion, and an external tool such as Turnitin or Pear Deck. These are things you can sync from Schoology to Power Teacher Pro as a graded assignment. So when I choose one of these, here's where we select that category. So I can say how this assignment is going to get categorized in Power Teacher Pro. Notice there's the sync to SIS. In Power School Learning, we had to decide right then and there when we created that assignment if we wanted it to go to Power Teacher Pro. Because remember, we could not go back in and edit and change that sync. Schoology has made it so you can at any time edit an assignment and send that assignment to Power Teacher Pro. So for best practice, we are telling teachers, uncheck this unless you are 100% positive you want this assignment to go to Power Teacher Pro. If you know you want this to go, check it. If you want to do it later, like you want to wait and see the turnout on the assignment, I would uncheck it because later you can send it. We have that ability now. I also want you to notice it's right now, this is going to be assigned to all sections in this course. I can choose when it opens, the day. I can even choose the specific time. But if I hit right here, select sections, I can start to individually assign to each section. And when I do that, it will still let me choose date and time. So I can get picky on the time my assignments open for my different class periods. So remember, for best practice, if you're not sure you're going to grade this assignment and send it to Power Teacher Pro, uncheck to sync to SIS and save it for later. You can always come back and edit. That is one new feature we have. So let's talk about grading in Schoology. You're going to have a gradebook in Schoology. Lisa, I will get to that. Yes, that's a great question. So here is my Schoology gradebook. This is only going to show me assignments I have created in Schoology. In Power Teacher Pro, you can still create assignments manually there. That is your all-encompassing gradebook. Anything you want to add there, you can add it. Schoology is strictly for your digital assignments that you want to use with your students. So here is my gradebook. Once again, I can change between my periods to see my different rosters. But here is where that second option to sync your assignments. It's the circle with the 2 arrows. So if I'm in here grading an assignment, once I'm done, I can hit the sync. You can do it once a week, you can do it once a month, you can do it every day. It's up to you. But just remember, only that grading category automatically syncs. Nothing else syncs unless you tell it. So I'm going to switch to a different grade book so you can see some grades. So I'm just going to go into this grade book for this course. Okay, so here's my grades. So I've started to do some grading in here. If I want these two grades to sync to the student's Power Teacher Pro, I have to hit the sync. If not, it won't go. Now, sometimes at the end of the quarter or randomly, we'll look in Power Teacher Pro at our different grading categories, and we'll notice that we have some blank spots in our assignments. Like I would notice I have these blank spots in Power Teacher Pro. Sometimes we would just manually start to enter those grades or say it's missing in Power Teacher Pro. Well, if I manually entered grades on a Schoology assignment in Power Teacher Pro, but then come back to Schoology and hit my sync and these categories are empty, Schoology will override any manually entered grades in Power Teacher Pro that are linked to Schoology. So that's the big change this year. 100% grading on Schoology assignments has to be done in Schoology. You cannot grade a Schoology assignment in Power Teacher Pro. You must use this gradebook so it doesn't wipe out. But if you manually created an assignment in Power Teacher Pro, such as a listening and speaking activity, and that doesn't come from Schoology, you can do that in Power Teacher Pro. One more thing I want to show you, and I'm going to let you go because I know some of you have other stuff to do. In your gradebook, once you create your assignments, up here on this toolbar, there's these three little dots. If you hit that, you're going to see the option for bulk edit. Right now in your gradebooks, you won't see it because you have no assignments created. So this course has assignments, so I'm able to find bulk edit. So I'm able to see every assignment in this course. At one time, I can change every assignment's name. I can change its Schoology category and how it talks to Power Teacher Pro. I can change its points. I can change its grade scale or rubric. I can change its due date at once. But I want you to also notice I can at once say, okay, I've decided all of these assignments, I want them to go to Power Teacher Pro. I've graded them, they're ready to go. I'm ready for them to be seen. I check them, and then I just hit Save Changes. So this is a great way to mass edit all of your assignments at once or send multiple at once to Power Teacher Pro. And a lot of this information we put in that slide deck for you, such as slide 16 talks about that grading. Here's that bulk edit, so you can reference it later. Here is the district video on the new grade scale if you want to learn more about it. And then high school. Here is some information for you on inputting your assignments into Schoology to have it sync to Power Teacher Pro. So if you put in an assignment that is a 23% in Schoology, okay, high school, you put in a 23% on an assignment for a student. When it goes from Schoology to Power Teacher Pro, it will override to a 40%. Okay, so that means high school, if they earn a 58%, you need to type in that 58%. Any other percentage underneath that in the transfer will go to the NS 40%. And then this talks about those teachers with the issues that we are going to have to work with you in those Sped sections. So to end out, make sure you reach out to your district technology coordinator if some of your sections wouldn't link or you are having issues connecting your two grade books together. we would be happy to start troubleshooting that for you. We'll leave it open for questions and you may go if you're ready, but I thank you for coming and I wish you the best this year. If it's listed that way, if they can link them, they'll be listed together. Then that one is not. That's one of those special ones that they cannot, and we have to work with them on what their best option is. High school credit, middle school classes, yes, that grade scale applies. That's why we had you select that high school grade scale. So you have to do that NS with those students. These did not get sent out in an email, but if you go to Google and type in FWCS integrated, the first thing that pops up is our site. So on our site, we have a full page for Schoology. We have back to 101, 102, jazzing it up. But right here, this is where we should be. This is your course setup. This talks about your content migration, section linking, editing your content information, doing your gradebook configuration, and right here's that slide deck. But please reach out to your coordinator. We are happy to answer anything. We want to get you set up and going this year. Thanks for coming, everyone. Allison, you should be able to be added as a co-teacher and then link. It shouldn't be you. If you're made an admin in a course, you should be able to link your courses.
So it doesn't matter that she's not all linked yet. I should be able to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that's just in the members section of a course. Yes, Matt, I would love to. So I'm in a course right now. So if you see this little badge, this means we are admin. So all you have to do is hit add members. If it's someone at your school, make sure you select your school. If you're at Memorial Park, make sure it's Memorial Park. If you're Northside, you have Northside to find your co-teachers. So I'm just gonna pretend we're gonna add Armstrong. So if I added Steve Armstrong to my course, here he is. He's just a standard student in my course. So I'm at his profile. If I come over here to the right and hit the gear, I'm able to make him an admin, and I'm also able to kick him back out of my course. If you make them an admin, they can add content, they can help you manage your course with you, but it will not flood their Google Drive. That's my other favorite feature. So I got asked, how do I find that integrated page again? All you need is a new Google window, and you can literally just type in FWCS integrated and hit search. And we should be that first pop-up that you see. It's our Google site. And then once in our Google site, up here on the top, you'll see Schoology. So we've got 101 with its slide deck, its videos. We got 102. You want to jazz up your page. And then here's that course setup to help you get ready for back to school. Great question. This has been fantastic. Thanks, Diane.